The picture you see in front of you is a picture of Omarosa Manigault. She has recently, I guess within the past year or so, been ordained as a minister and is the assistant pastor of the Weller Street Baptist Church in Los Angeles. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with that church, I gotta tell you, neither was I. I checked out where that church was located, and it's basically located in East LA, which has a large number of, it's predominantly Hispanic. Let's just say what it is. Now, I've known quite a few men of God that have gone into the ministry, some of them living a very, shall we call it, righteous life, some others that actually didn't. The common denominator among all of them was, no matter what type of a life they led, they came to God, and it took them a long, and I'm not talking about a year or two, in some cases, once they completed their seminary work associated with a church, at the minimum, it took them 5 years to be ordained as a minister, and then several years to be given the title of assistant pastor. In Los Angeles, as with New York, of which I'm also familiar, it is not an easy task to be named an assistant pastor or named a pastor. For her to have done it in such a short span of time gives me pause. But even more so than that, once a person of God is ordained, they are supposed to live a righteous life, an exemplary life. But in her case, from the research I've done, that has not in fact been a fact. That being said, she is a major surrogate for Donald Trump. And in my opinion, for her to follow this man basically invalidates her as being a person of God. Now, I know there will be criticism on that, but I will point out, in the Bible, there have been a lot of people that have converted. And I mean some people that were terrible people. One of the main ones is one that we look to, which is Paul, who was a Jew and a member of the Sanhedrin, and he was directly involved in the death of Philip. But God had a mission for him, and then once Paul converted over, he was one of the most powerful advocates of the church. Miss Manigault obviously had converted to a life of faith based on what she says, but I have yet to see any overt show of her faith in her actions, especially in supporting a man who I believe falls short, and I mean way short, of an exemplary individual person, both in his attitude, his dealings with other people, etc. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to play this clip from an interview she did on MSNBC.
Omarosa Manigault. Omarosa is the vice chair of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, a former participant on The Apprentice, and also an ordained minister. Omarosa, good to have you with me.
Hi, good to be here.
So Donald Trump, he met with faith leaders this morning, and I just want to show a video that was tweeted out from inside that meeting. Take a look.
Anything about Hillary in terms of religion. Now, she's been in the public eye for years and years, and yet there's nothing out there. There's like nothing out there. It's going to be an extension of Obama, but it's going to be worse, because with Obama you had your guard up. With Hillary you don't. We can't be, again, politically correct and say we pray for all of our leaders, because all of your leaders are selling Christianity down the tubes, selling the evangelicals down the tubes.
So Omarosa, you are an ordained minister, also...
Now, I don't think there's anybody out there that would be confused by Donald Trump as being a man of faith. And he's using faith in order to attempt to attack Hillary Clinton. In my mind, that's basically off limits. Now, you can appeal to the evangelicals based on your actions and beliefs, but basically to claim that someone else does not have faith, in my mind, that's off limits. So, and if you notice in that meeting, which appeared to be a true meeting, it appeared that Mr. Trump was meeting with the white and evangelical community. And I'm going to make mention of the black evangelical community as it's brought up in this particular clip.
To broker a meeting between black pastors and Donald Trump in December.
Okay. That meeting that she helped to broker with two other bought and paid for pastors was not actually a meeting. They tried to promote it as a meeting where 100 black pastors were going to endorse Donald Trump, but that was a smokescreen. It was a lie, because pastors came from all over the country supposedly to meet with Donald Trump. That's what they were told. They were not told that they were there to endorse him. And as it turned out, Donald Trump basically met with them for approximately 5 minutes, but there was such a firestorm regarding how the meeting was advertised versus what the pastors that came to that meeting thought it was going to be, that they had to walk away from the endorsement portion of it. And some pastors that attended the meeting that felt like they were being used actually did speak to the media and stated clearly that they were not there to endorse Mr. Trump. They were there to meet with Mr. Trump to hear what he had to say. And he basically spoke to them for 5 minutes while he had several surrogates that did most of the talking, and he took no questions. So much for Mr. Trump reaching out and his diversity group having an actual effect, or even having considerations for the group, that particular group that they met with.
This was all based about the fact that he is seen as intolerant. We know he has challenged the president again, go down a faith-based intolerance line of attack against Hillary Clinton.
Well, first of all, I want to say that people have very intimate, personal relationships with God, and none of us know what those relationships are. But I can say that I find it very ironic that people are questioning this when it was Hillary Rodham Clinton who questioned Barack Obama's faith back when they were running. And so faith comes into play in the political arena.
It does, but President Obama has now endorsed Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton endorsed President Obama. This is not about them. This is directly about
off bounds, obviously, and they set the
challenging
tone
the faith
for
of
that.
Hillary Clinton. And you as an ordained minister also saying that, you know, the tone and people challenging other people's faith, you know, this shouldn't be a
faith
big
is personal.
question.
It's
It should
very,
be
very personal.
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to make before you cut me off was that, you know, we have seen that faith has come into play in the political arena, starting back when they were opponents, Barack Obama and Hillary, and even carrying on into this particular race. I mean, I think that Donald Trump meeting with these ministers really show that he is trying to make an effort to really reach out to different communities, that he is a man of faith, and that he cares about the direction that this country is moving from a moral standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and from a very personal standpoint.
Okay, you notice that she circled back after Thomas told her it wasn't about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, it was about Donald Trump. You notice that she circled back to bring it back to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So again, it's not supposed to be about faith, but she basically is making it in this interview about faith, and she did not answer the fact that faith should not be used to attack another person.
So, Omarosa, I just got this email about the Trump campaign announces Evangelical Executive Advisory Board. So the Executive Board will also lead a much larger Faith and Cultural Advisory Committee that will be announced later this month.
Absolutely.
So what more can you tell us about that and the fact that Donald Trump is interested in getting the support of evangelicals and other Christians to support his campaign and his goal of being elected to the White House in November?
Well, this is an extension of the work, as you mentioned, that we started last fall, the work of reaching out to evangelical leaders, to faith-based leaders, to leaders from all different religious backgrounds, because faith is the bedrock of this country. This nation is built on people who believe that God really is watching over this nation and will move this nation forward. And so, yes, we have been assembling an incredible broad-reaching, wide-reaching group of people who will certainly advise him going forward, going into the general, but because Donald cares about where this nation is going and the values that this nation is built on.
So
I just wonder how many people of faith in the Jewish community that Donald Trump's reaching out to. And an even bigger question is, how many people of faith in the Muslim community is Donald reaching out to? I guarantee you that number is zero.
Omarosa, there's been a shakeup in the campaign. We know Paul Manafort is at the helm. Corey Lewandowski is out. In the way the campaign structure is running right now, have you been approached in terms of, as you act as a surrogate for the campaign, of how to communicate on behalf of the campaign? Have you seen changes that have immediately taken effect?
Well, actually, once Paul came on, I saw changes because Paul has a very different style than Corey. I like Paul a lot, and I believe that the direction that we're going under Paul's leadership is exactly where we need to focus. This pivot towards the general is something that Paul's experience and his relationships will help to be an asset for Donald. And so I'm very happy that we are moving in the right direction and that this change will actually bring about the strength the candidate needs with his organization, with the people who are advising him to properly take on Hillary Rodham Clinton in the fall.
So when it comes to advice, you recently called yourself Donald Trump's Valerie Jarrett, a close confidant, as you describe it, someone who pulls him back when he goes too far. So specifically,
I think
when have you
I'm much more
advised him?
unique than Valerie Jarrett, but thank you very much.
But that's what you said.
No, that came from a transcript from a conversation with someone that was paraphrased. But thank you so much. Since I was there, I knew exactly what was said. But I am a little more unique than Valerie in the sense that I've worked in both the Clinton White House and I've worked for Donald Trump. I've worked in the faith community. I am a business professor, so I've worked in education and I've worked in entertainment. So I think I bring a lot more to the table for Donald Trump than just being a friend. But I think what's more important right now and what Don...
Is that a standard, Jesus, is that a standard trait of all Donald Trump surrogates, that they run off at the mouth, quoting their own qualifications when a question's asked instead of going straight to it? Because every last single one of his surrogates does this. And to be honest with you, it's annoying.
Needs from me and from his friends is to trust that this political process is up and down. There are twists and turns. And I've been looking at the reports about the fundraising. I think it's very interesting from a business perspective that Hillary has spent $40 million on advertising, and her ROI is so low. I mean, you look at battleground states like my home state of Ohio and Pennsylvania, where they are even, and we haven't.
They're not really even, and most people will tell you that, even though there are polls that say they're even, they're not really even. And as far as ROI, which for those of you who don't know is a return on investment, Donald Trump's ROI thus far in the battleground states is zero, because he hasn't spent any money in any of the battleground states. So for her to pull out ROI, come on, let's be real about this.
Even gotten started on the ads and really going after her. So I think that what you'll see going forward is a very strong, lean, tough, and disciplined team, and I'm glad to be a part of that.
It is a general election roller coaster, and Omarosa, you are on it. Omarosa Manigault, thanks for your time as always. I appreciate it.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Now, in closing, that is a woman. And I'm going to be upfront about this. I'm not for female pastors or even female assistant pastors. As far as I'm concerned, that's not right. But that's me. Other people feel differently about it. If I were to walk into a church, which I have, and there have been female pastors there, I am respectful. I obviously will listen to the message, etc. But I would probably be more receptive if it were a male. Just call it just me. And I think there is biblical evidence for me to back up my feeling. But again, that's neither here nor there. One thing about it, as far as I'm concerned, this woman is not a minister. She may have gotten her qualifications via pay to play. I don't know that, but that's what I feel in my heart. And it's, in my opinion, people like this that turn a lot of people off to religion because they can sense the phoniness in them, and then they automatically extend it out to all pastors, which all pastors are not phony. Most pastors are ordained properly. They are called by God to do his work. I do not believe this lady was called. That is just me.